Okay, well, joining me now, I'm going to switch gears a little bit here, and we're going to talk about his new book, Blue Marble Health, is Dr. Peter Hotez. Dr. Hotez is the Dean of the National School of Tropical Medicine at Baylor in Houston, Texas, and the Texas Children's Hospital Endowed Chair in Tropical Pediatrics. Hello, Dr. Hotez. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
Yes, sir. I actually read your book. Unlike a lot of people that do interviews, I do read the book first. And what I want to do is introduce my audience to your book, and I think it's best to give a couple of definitions. And let's start with the title, Blue Marble Health. It has a meaning. Go ahead, sir.
It does. It refers to the fact that we may be entering a new era of global health in which the current paradigm of thinking about global health problems as developing country versus developed country. You know, when you think about poor countries in sub-Saharan Africa with malaria and other neglected diseases, including diseases such as schistosomiasis, there's been a possible change, and that is over the last few years we're now seeing a rise in neglected diseases among the poor living in wealthy countries. So it actually turns out to be the group of 20 countries, the G20 countries, the 20 wealthiest economies, together with Nigeria. And even though Nigeria is not a G20 country, it has an economy that is bigger than the bottom three G20 countries. Those G20 countries now account for most of the world's neglected diseases. So diseases such as worm infections and dengue and tuberculosis and leishmaniasis and Chagas disease are now predominantly occurring in the wealthiest countries. So there's a surprise that it's the poverty-related diseases are mostly in the wealthiest economies, and the twist there is that it's the poor living in those G20 countries that account for this burden of illness.
Right. Now, another definition I want my audience to understand is, and you've already mentioned it, it's called neglected tropical disease, or abbreviated NTD. When you say that, what are you talking about?
So it's a term that we developed in 2004, and it refers to the most common afflictions of people who live in extreme poverty. The original list was 13 and included diseases such as hookworm and schistosomiasis and Buruli ulcer. I like to call them the most common afflictions you've never heard of. The WHO has picked up on this and now has a list of 17, soon to be 18, neglected tropical diseases, and they are the most common diseases of people who live in extreme poverty.
Now, you've already talked about Blue Marble Health and the G20 plus Nigeria. So what you do in the book is you look at these 21 economic powers and look at their issues they have with severe poverty and NTDs, despite being economic powers. And I want to go ahead and look at a few of the countries that you go over in the book to give the audience a feel for what you're trying to do. And I want to start with India because I find India quite fascinating. Yeah,
great.
India is going to be the most populous nation probably within a decade, and it has one of the largest gross domestic product. However, despite their booming economy, India has what you describe as a hidden and largely forgotten India. Can you give us a synopsis about India?
Sure. I mean, India right now has a large economy. As you point out, it's soon going to overtake China as the largest country. It's got a gross domestic product of about $2 trillion, ranked now 11th among the G20 countries in the European Union. But there's some projections that by the year 2035, the economy can rank third, eclipsed only by the U.S. and China. And that's what's driving that is incredibly productive pharmaceutical industry, engineering, and of course the information technology in India is exploding. But then there's what I call the hidden India, which is especially some of the rural poverty. There appears to be a rural poverty divide in India. Admittedly, there's slums in the big cities, but and those of you who watch Slumdog Millionaire know what I'm talking about.
Right.
But a lot of those 750 million people in India live on $2 a day, live in forgotten rural areas. And it turns out that a lot of that most intense poverty is concentrated in some of the northeastern parts of the country, like Bihar State, Uttar Pradesh, Orissa. And there we were finding a huge percentage of the population infected with neglected tropical diseases led by intestinal worm infections, lymphatic filariasis, Kala-Azar, visceral leishmaniasis, leprosy. There's rabies. Dengue is really severe, and this is what's really holding back that bottom 750 million people from achieving their full economic potential. Because one of the things about NTDs is they both occur in the setting of poverty, but they cause poverty because of their debilitating effects on workers, and debilitating effects on child development and pregnancy.
Okay, I'm talking to Dr. Peter Hotez about his new book, Blue Marble Health. And a country that has received a lot of attention in recent weeks and months is Brazil. Mm-hmm. And again, this is the largest economy and population in Latin America. However, Brazil's plagued with poverty and disease. What can you say about Brazil? I mean, are they going through the same issues as India is?
Well, one of the things that I noticed in writing this book is that poverty and disease concentrate. So it's not like they're homogeneously distributed over each of the G20 countries. For instance, we talked about India. It's especially northern India. If you go into China, it's not so much in Beijing and Shanghai. It's in southwestern China, Guizhou, Sichuan, Yunnan provinces. Well, the same is true in Brazil.
So it would be the Amazon area.
Even the more populated northeastern Brazilian states, Pernambuco, Bahia State, and guess what? That's where Zika is concentrated.
Sure. And
it's there for a reason, because that's the epicenter of poverty in Brazil. And actually, northeastern Brazil is the epicenter of neglected tropical diseases in the Latin American and Caribbean region. So it's not only Zika, it's also schistosomiasis and leishmaniasis and Chagas disease, highly concentrated. So it's not from my perspective, it's not a coincidence that all the microcephaly cases, when we first saw those horrific pictures at the end of last year of these poor babies with not only small heads but fetal brain disruption sequence showing up in northeastern Brazil. That's the epicenter of Brazil's poverty and neglected tropical disease.
Yeah. Now, lastly, a country that most listeners would not even think would be included in your book is right here in the United States.
Right.
But before we talk about the issues here in the U.S., you discuss in your book about your move to Houston and what you saw. Can you kind of regurgitate that here on air?
Sure. We've been here now in Houston for about 5 years, where we set up the first, what we think is one of the first schools of tropical medicine in a while, the National School of Tropical Medicine, based in Houston. And it was because the epicenter of poverty and disease in the United States is the Gulf Coast in Florida. And when I moved from Washington, D.C., where I was chair of microbiology at George Washington University, and I kind of thought I knew what poverty looked like in Washington, D.C., but this was a different animal coming down to Texas and the Gulf Coast, where you saw dilapidated housing with no window screens or air conditioning, and terrible environmental degradation around the homes, with discarded tires and discarded TV sets with water, and of course this is why they're a risk for Zika. But when I saw it, I said, boy, I didn't know this existed in the U.S. It was a little bit of Tegucigalpa or Lagos right here in the United States. And when we did a deep dive to look, the number we came up with is that there's 12 million Americans living in extreme poverty. That's at 1/2 the U.S. poverty level, with at least one neglected tropical disease. And I start out the book taking the reader through a tour of the poor parts of Houston, and then I devote quite a large chapter of the book to the problems of the 12 million Americans with neglected tropical diseases, mostly in the southern United States.
Yeah, and you kind of led into my next question. Like, Now, most people wouldn't even think of the U.S. has the issues that you're describing in the book of severe poverty and neglected tropical diseases, but you say that we do.
Yeah,
what do we have?
20 million Americans who live at half the U.S. poverty level. That's called extreme poverty, and according to the University of Michigan Center on Poverty, there's 1.65 million families living on less than $2 a day, the same benchmark you would use for global poverty everywhere. So, yes, we've got pockets of extreme poverty and disease, and Texas probably has the largest number of people living in poverty. And again, these neglected tropical diseases both occur in the setting of poverty, they reinforce poverty, and that's why we have a problem. The interesting part about this was, after devoting my life to thinking about neglected tropical diseases in the poorest countries of the world, and getting some success at getting people to understand what NTDs are all about, I thought, boy, when we found the focus of neglected tropical diseases in the southern United States, this would be headline news and really get people to stand up and take notice. But quite the opposite has happened. There's just been this near conspiracy of silence about neglected tropical diseases among the poor. The level of interest has been almost nil by the major network news or cable news. Very little interest.
What explains that, do you think?
Well, I don't know. There's this concept out. There's a relatively new book that's come out called Flyover Nation, which basically says what gets on the media is what is of concern to people in Bethesda, Maryland, Brookline, Massachusetts, Westchester, New York, meaning the suburbs of the wealthy East Coast cities, together with Silicon Valley, and what happens in the middle really doesn't concern the mainstream media. And I think there's a certain amount of truth to that. We don't care about women and children in Texas and Louisiana or even Florida. I think the attention has been relatively modest.
Maybe it's because doesn't have the sensationalism of something like Ebola,
Well, sure, and a lot of these neglected tropical diseases are, although I add Ebola to the list, are not killer diseases. The pathology is more subtle. It's chronic and debilitating, like Chagas disease in the U.S. is a chronic and debilitating cause of heart disease. Toxoplasmosis causes developmental delays and lung dysfunction. Cysticercosis causes epilepsy, but it's often not diagnosed because doctors and nurses are not even trained to think about these diseases, so they don't order specific tests for them.
Yeah. Now, in your book, you talk about the convergence between the neglected tropical diseases, non-communicable diseases like diabetes and heart disease, and what you call the big three. That's, of course, HIV, TB, and malaria. Can you briefly discuss the convergence you're talking about?
That's not just that, also neglected tropical diseases. In fact, one of our papers just came online on PLOS NTDs just this afternoon, plosntds.org, and it talks about the fact that now that we're seeing the G20 countries have a lot of neglected tropical diseases, it's being overlaid on people with underlying non-communicable diseases such as diabetes and hypertension. So the paper this afternoon, and we also discuss it in the book, is dengue fever in the context of underlying diabetes and heart diseases. Diabetes and hypertension is having very profound medical consequences, very high mortality linked to that. So I think this is going to be a new theme we see in the coming years, is diseases like, well, you mentioned tuberculosis. I think that's true, and also dengue, when patients with chronic underlying conditions like diabetes and hypertension, that's going to be a bad actor. We're going to see a lot of mortality from that.
All right. So, Dr. Peter Hotez, what can be done?
Well, I think what can be, there are existing treatments for many of these diseases. In other cases, we need research and development for new drugs, diagnostics, and vaccines. And the book tries to end on a positive note by saying, if the elected leaders or even the non-elected leaders of the G20 countries, depending on the country, would reaffirmed a commitment to their own vulnerable, poor, and neglected populations, we could actually wipe out 2/3 of the world's neglected tropical diseases. So, because it's not a resource problem, the G20 countries account for 86% of the global economy, practically all of it. If the resources are there, it's a matter of allocating resources to combat their own diseases. And of course, we have a lesson learned right here at home, where Congress decided to go on recess at the peak of arbovirus season when they knew that Zika transmission was going to be at its greatest.
Right. Just real quickly, I saw that Cher did the foreword. What's your relationship or your connection with Cher?
So Cher got interested in Cher's always been interested in neglected and vulnerable populations. So she's very interested in the problem of poverty, has started a school, and has invited me to go to her home back in a few years back, where I tutored her on neglected tropical diseases, and we've been talking about them ever since. And so when I wrote the book, I thought this was right in her sweet spot in terms of writing a foreword, and she agreed to do it.
Perfect. All right, Dr. Hotez, can I ask you one question not related to your book?
Sure.
We lost a legend in the past week, the eradicator of smallpox, D.A. Henderson. I was wondering if I could get your thoughts on the career, the life of D.A. Henderson.
D.A. Was an amazing person. He was a friend and colleague, and when I first moved to Washington, he came to visit me from Baltimore, and that was back in 2000. And you're right, he is a giant of medical science, also a giant of a person as well. He can be gentle when he needs to be, but can be fierce when he's trying to look out for the poorest people in the world. His book on smallpox eradication is probably the definitive story of how he did that, and how he was a field marshal in battle eradicating smallpox. And I consider it one of the greatest achievements of the 20th century, never really getting the recognition that it deserved. For instance, he was never awarded the Nobel Prize, either in medicine or peace, which I think he was entitled to. If you do some back-of-the-envelope calculations, given the hundreds of thousands of people who died every year of smallpox prior to when the campaign was started, and looking at it now that it's gone, DA's work has saved literally tens of millions of lives. You can argue he may have saved more lives than any other single human being in human history. That's the magnitude of his accomplishment.
Wow, that's impressive. Okay, the book is Blue Marble Health. The author is Dr. Peter Hotez. Thank you, sir, for your time and expertise, and congratulations on your new book.
Thank you, and thank you for giving attention to this.
Yes.